China's economic decline is no longer a distant threat. It is unfolding in plain sight. Across the country, private businesses are being forcibly taken over by local governments, and once thriving cities are facing ghostly emptiness. From Gansu and Shandong to the tech hub of Shenzhen, the warning signs are clear. Economic stagnation, mass layoffs, and a breakdown of investor confidence. In this report, we explore the human cost behind the numbers, from entrepreneurs stripped of their investments to workers struggling to survive in abandoned urban centers. Beijing, November 1st, 2025. China's economic decline and the mounting pressure on local finances have led to a surge of state takeovers of private businesses. Recent reports from Gansu and Shandong provinces reveal how companies that invested hundreds of millions of yuan through government investment incentives were forcibly seized by local authorities, raising questions about the very nature of China's so-called investment promotion. On October 30th, local media reported that the chairman of Hongyuan Clean Heating Co. Limited in Min County, Gansu, said he invested 370 million yuan starting in 2018 after signing a 30-year concession agreement with the local government to operate heating services. Yet, after only 5 years of operation, the county government took control of the company, citing substandard heating and too many public complaints as reasons. "I am just an ordinary citizen. You can never beat the government," lamented Zhang Yong, who has spent over 2 years trying to reclaim his company, all in vain. Witnesses describe employees arriving at the office to find gates locked and official notices posted. Some engineers reportedly stood outside for hours, unable to access equipment or retrieve personal belongings. "It was surreal," one former staff member said. "Everything we built, just gone overnight." Li Chuanliang, former vice mayor of Jixi, Heilongjiang, highlighted the inherent risks in local government-led investment schemes. "I managed heating and water companies during my time in the system. These 30-year concession agreements for utilities are put out for tender, but giving these rights to private enterprises while the government establishes competing entities is a trap. From the start, it's a scam." China's State Council had issued regulations as early as 2010, encouraging private capital to participate in municipal utilities, allowing the transfer of ownership or management rights. But according to Li, the reality is far from the promise of open investment. Local governments in China invite investment with open doors, then beat the investor behind closed doors. Many of these schemes are deceptive. They are not designed to enrich local economies but to serve government privileges. In Min County, the government granted the concession to a single company while simultaneously creating 2 state-owned heating companies, an abuse of authority Li called officialdom at its worst. A concession should be exclusive. All heating should flow through that company. If the government creates competing firms, how can the original investor ever get a return? "This is misconduct, pure and simple," Li said. A similar case unfolded in Boxing County, Shandong. Hongyuan Heating Combine invested nearly 400 million yuan and built over 180 kilometers of heating pipelines with 200 heat exchange stations, serving roughly 50,000 households under a 30-year agreement signed in 2010. When the county's Housing and Urban Development Bureau tried to use the company's name for a government bond application in May 2023, the company refused. Subsequent attempts by the government to acquire or invest in the company were also rejected. In September, police and special forces sealed the company's assets and posted takeover notices. Locals reported seeing officers preventing employees from entering the premises, while banners announcing the state takeover were hung prominently. "Even talking to the officials was impossible," said a former manager. "We were essentially locked out of our own business." Li emphasized that these cases are just the tip of the iceberg. The push of the state into private enterprises, especially in utilities, is a trap. These 2 companies represent a broader pattern. This is not about 2 firms. It could be hundreds or thousands. Behind every private utility company, water, garbage, public transport, heating, there's a ledger of hardships that mostly remain hidden. Jianping Lai, a former Beijing lawyer and chairman of the Canadian Civil Alliance, explained the motivation behind such government actions. China's economy is in severe decline, and local governments are strapped for cash. Authoritarian regimes naturally covet private wealth. Under these economic conditions, they feel emboldened. Private companies become lambs to the slaughter. Other examples of forced government takeovers include Tang Xianze, a Chongqing businessman, whose 800 million yuan wastewater treatment project in Maotai town, Guizhou, was seized. A Shandong market regulation officer candidly admitted, "Every year I have a 50 million yuan performance target. Taking down a company is easy. Supporting one is almost impossible." These cases paint a stark picture. Private capital in China remains highly vulnerable to government predation, even when operating under legally sanctioned agreements. For many entrepreneurs, decades of investment and labor can vanish overnight. Shenzhen, October 2025. Once hailed as China's Silicon Valley and a haven for young professionals, Shenzhen is facing an unprecedented economic downturn. Factory closures, mass layoffs, and shuttered storefronts paint a stark picture of a city struggling to sustain its millions of residents. First-hand accounts from residents and workers reveal a city that has lost its vitality. A recent visitor described streets once bustling with commerce and activity as eerily empty. "Don't come to Shenzhen. Many factories have already relocated. Even walking at night, it feels like a ghost town. Shops are shuttered, streets are abandoned." The crisis is evident across major districts. In Nanshan's Haiyancheng area, a street once famed for high-end retail and entrepreneurial activity now sits largely vacant. Stores that previously sold for 400,000 to 500,000 yuan per square meter are empty, with rats now taking residence. Entrepreneurs who invested millions are seeing their assets evaporate. This entire street represents tens of millions in lost investments, the visitor said. Shenzhen was once the city of dreams, but now ordinary people cannot find work, and many are forced to live on the streets. Industrial zones in Longgang and Longhua have suffered similar fates. Factories that once employed thousands are closed, leaving workers without jobs or income. Even high-end office districts and commercial centers like Futian's CBD are showing sharp declines in activity. Restaurants, tea shops, and cafes are deserted. Foot traffic is almost non-existent. The downturn is exacerbated by the relocation of manufacturing to Southeast Asia and Mexico, leaving Shenzhen with an empty core industrial structure unable to support its large population. "I came to Shenzhen 10 days ago," a 2025 university graduate recounted. "I cannot find work anywhere except in phone sales or as a live stream host. Jobs that once paid 6,000 to 7,000 yuan now barely cover rent. For women over 30, finding employment here is almost impossible." Housing and real estate, long pillars of Shenzhen's growth, are also collapsing. In Nanshan, apartment prices have dropped drastically, with some areas falling by 70% from previous highs. Vacant units and unoccupied commercial spaces now dominate neighborhoods, leaving landlords scrambling. Even the industrial parks, where companies once worked weekends to meet deadlines, are now largely empty, a local explained. Many factories have shut down due to lack of orders. Business owners cannot cover rent or operational costs, and employees are left without jobs. Daily life has been severely impacted. Public spaces, previously crowded with workers, students, and tourists, now host people sleeping on sidewalks or public squares. Street vendors report empty stalls and declining customers. Bus stops, once bustling with commuters, sit largely vacant. "You can walk for blocks without seeing anyone," said a delivery worker. "Even the usual street food stalls are closed. It's like the city has been abandoned overnight." Many middle-aged workers, burdened with mortgages and family responsibilities, report extreme financial stress. "I know a man in his late 30s, the visitor said. He's lost his job, owes hundreds of thousands in debt, and doesn't know how he will support his family. This is the reality for many here. The city no longer provides opportunities for ordinary citizens. The situation is particularly grim for small business owners. From furniture stores to street vendors, countless shops have closed due to declining demand, high rents, and the difficulty of maintaining cash flow. Even sectors considered resilient, like second-hand retail, are struggling to survive. The decline of Shenzhen mirrors broader economic challenges in China: shrinking manufacturing capacity, capital flight, and the erosion of once thriving urban centers. For millions of residents, the city that once promised opportunity and prosperity now feels inhospitable and precarious. Shenzhen was a city where dreams were made, the visitor concluded. Now, ordinary people face unemployment, declining wages, and empty streets. The city's boom has turned into a cautionary tale of economic overreach and policy failures. The stories of Minxian, Boxing, and Shenzhen are more than isolated incidents. They are the visible tip of a vast economic iceberg. Across China, private businesses face government interference, manufacturing relocates abroad, and cities once filled with hope and opportunity are now hollowed out. These events have unfolded over the past decade, with the most severe takeovers and urban declines occurring between 2023 and 2025, coinciding with China's broader economic slowdown and tightening government control. For ordinary citizens, the consequences are immediate and severe: lost livelihoods, evaporating wealth, and the psychological toll of uncertainty. As China's economic challenges deepen, these events offer a sobering glimpse into the realities behind official statistics and the human faces of a nation in crisis.